Let's begin from the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi, where a police officer has been crushed to death after chasing a motor on the Kote Accra Highway in Kumasi, the Ashanti Regional Capital. Now, the incident happened in the early hours of Wednesday, April 17, 2024. The police officer crashed the tail end of a parked truck, which eyewitnesses explained had developed a fault. The identity of the officer is yet to be established. Meanwhile, the KNUST Police Command has deposited the body at the Komfo Teaching Hospital for autopsy and preservation. That's a rather sad one. Let's get onto the phone lines and speak to security analyst Adib Sani on this particular issue. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. It must be really sad that in the course of duty, a police officer would lose his life in this way. What are your initial comments about this incident, Adib?
Well, it's an unfortunate incident. A police officer, a young, handsome police officer, had to die in this fashion. There are different opinions about what really transpired. Some indicate that the individual being chased had snatched a phone from someone. So the officer was chasing him to perhaps arrest when the incident happened. On the other hand, some also have indicated that it was just a simple case of a traffic rule flouted by the motorist. And in an attempt to arrest the individual, the accident happened. Interestingly, the police officer and the individual being chased were both involved in the accident. But I'm sure the suspect survived. Unfortunately, the police had to die in this fashion. I used to have a friend in Tamale called Kano. He also died in a very similar fashion. A vehicle had broken down on the side of the road, and from nowhere, he rode a motorbike into it. And another MP in the Tamale area had his vehicle. Fortunately for him, he wasn't in the vehicle. Had his vehicle crash into a truck that had broken down without any indication on the side of the road. So it brings about two issues. Okay?
Yes.
The first issue is what type of training does the police have? Because we've seen a lot of these young motor riders all over town. Sometimes they are even in a convoy numbering over 100, and you don't know what they are doing. To what extent have they been trained? Or they just put out an electronic signal. If you know how to ride a motorbike, come, we'll give you a motorbike. I think they should be trained on how to chase and how to even call off a chase to protect themselves or other members of the public. On the other hand, it brings up also the issue of these vehicles by the road are broken down with no triangle, no form of indication whatsoever. Recently, I nearly crashed into one in the middle of the night when a huge truck had broken down in the middle of the N1 highway. Look, they don't have any flashlight, nothing, no reflector. And so some of these things, do occur in that fashion. And I'm hoping that he's given a peaceful burial and his family is well taken care of.
Okay, Adib, I mean, obviously there are two scenarios here, as you have mentioned, that of the abandoned trucks, on our roads, and the first one about how police officers go about these, chasing. How should that be done? Because in some cases, you have these chases going on, and then there are some shootouts sometimes with these criminals who have gangs with them, and people of the public sometimes get caught in this. And also looking at the situation where he had to chase, as you mentioned, we should know, or they should know, when they are supposed to stop the chase. What really can the police, service do about this situation so as to prevent a lot of these deaths that happen in the cases of these chases on our roads?
Well, as a criminology researcher, I've done a lot of work in that regard. I've done a lot of work on the South Africa Police Service called SAPS. And other police institutions across the world. There's always a protocol to follow. Do you know the possibility that a criminal can lure you into a den is very high? That is why you would have to assess the situation. before even initiating a chase in the first place? Is it worth it? And when that chase is happening, do you communicate with other police officers so you are able to get a backup when you need it? Are you able to communicate to tell them, look, this person I'm chasing is wearing this, he's driving in this car, he's riding this vehicle, this motorbike with this number, and we are on the Liberation Road from the Ridge Roundabout towards Tetekwashi, and we've gotten to Opebia. Are we able to continuously contact the main lines to get them to know that this is what is happening? Because like you rightly mentioned, you could end up in a shootout. Are you in a position to engage the suspects in a shootout? That's the question. Because I know a lot of these officers are not armed, so far as I am concerned. Okay? And in some cases also, the chase becomes so dangerous to the extent that, look, if you don't abort it, you might end up hurting innocent, users on the road.
Okay.
All right. So are they trained to be able to detect and to stop it when there is the need to? I think all of this should be taken into consideration. But so far as I am concerned, even if there were any training in the first place, it's not enough to get these officers to practice in a much more safer manner.
Okay. And also, when the incident happened, a lot of people moved towards the alleged offender, trying to help him out, leaving the police officer there. Does that indicate a case, that the public somehow tired of the police looking at incidents that happened with the security agencies and the public? And even last week, what happened at Tamanuta? Is it something that you can draw a line in between?
That is the saddest part of the video when I saw it. The narrative. I think people should just take their time and listen to the kind of narrative in the background. This officer has his, excuse me to say, his head smashed. He's lying on the floor, still bleeding. And the focus is rather on this other person lying there who was being chased, who is the suspect. And you have people saying all manner of things, You always chase us. Why do you always chase? They are, so to speak, fed up with police chasing them and all that. And I think that is very sad. And that is obviously, to some extent, an indication of the type or, manner of perception that some of the public might have about the police. They are all over the place. Visibility is extremely key, okay? But I think still there is some level of mistrust between the public and the police. And there seems to also be some level of misunderstanding as to really what the police is doing and how it would inure to the benefit of the public and what the public can also do in return. There seems to be confusion, and I think largely is because of the lack of engagement. Because anytime I see these officers, when I get to a traffic intersection, I'm so excited about it, okay? Because I was one of the very vociferous persons who called for the need for, this visibility to be reactivated when at a point it went down a bit. So I think it should all boil to public education and most importantly, the professionalism of the police officers also count. Now it is commonplace seeing a police officer exchanging blows with a civilian. You see police officers acting in very unprofessional manner, and it's all recorded and put out there on social media. And I think these are some of the reasons people draw these conclusions.
All right, Adib Sani, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. He's a security analyst.